The smell of disinfectant filled the air, blending with the scent of medication. And despair, Olivia Mason, once one of the wealthiest and most envied women in New York, now found herself confined within the stark white walls of Bellevue Psychiatric Hospital. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, now wandered aimlessly around the room while her hands trembled incessantly. A side effect of the medication she was forced to take just 6 months ago. Olivia had been living a life of luxury and prestige, heir to a pharmaceutical empire. She was known not only for her wealth, but also for her philanthropy. Her life seemed perfect alongside her husband, the charming and ambitious plastic surgeon, Dr. Marcus Blackwell. But perfection, as Olivia would learn in the most brutal way possible, was nothing more than a facade. It all began to unravel on the night of a charity gala. Olivia, stunning in her couture gown, noticed something odd about Maris, his behavior. He seemed distant, nervous, constantly checking his phone. Then she saw it, the lingering glances he exchanged with Veronica, his longtime personal assistant. In that moment, something inside Olivia shattered. In the days that followed, she began to investigate. She uncovered suspicious bank transactions, incriminating emails, hotel reservations. The truth was undeniable. Marcus and Veronica had been having an affair for months, but there was something even more. Sinister Marcus wasn't just betraying Olivia emotionally, he was systematically draining her bank accounts, transferring millions to offshore accounts. When confronted, Marcus denied everything. But when Olivia threatened to expose him, things took a terrifying turn one night. After a heated argument, Olivia woke up in a strange room surrounded by nurses. Marcus, with his smooth and persuasive doctor's voice, explained to a team of psychiatrists that his wife was suffering from a mental breakdown, fabricating paranoid stories about infidelity and theft, using his influence in the medical field and presenting fabricated evidence of Olivia's erratic behavior. Marcus managed to have her involuntarily committed. Day after day, Olivia screamed the truth, but the more she protested, the more delusional she seemed in the eyes of the medical staff. Meanwhile, Marcus, with Veronica's help, emptied Olivia's accounts, sold her properties, and transferred everything overseas. The empire she had inherited from her family was being dismantled before her eyes, and she was powerless to stop. Weeks turned into months. Olivia, once vibrant and confident, was now a shadow of herself. The medication left her lethargic, confused. She started to doubt her own memories. Had she really gone mad? Had she imagined it all? But then, on a rainy autumn afternoon, something changed. A new nurse, Sarah, started working. Dangerous game if they were caught. Sarah would lose her job and her license, and Olivia could be transferred to a maximum security facility, burying any hope of freedom forever. Weeks turned into months, and Olivia's plan began to take shape. She knew that simply exposing Marcus and Veronica wouldn't be enough. They were wealthy and influential, now capable of escaping with nothing more than a fine or a light sentence. No, Olivia wanted more than justice. She wanted revenge. She wanted them to feel the same despair, the same helplessness she had endured. During those long months of confinement, with Sarah's help, she reached out to old allies who still believed in her. One of them was Jack Donovan, a private investigator who had worked for the Mason family in the past. Initially skeptical, Jack was horrified when he uncovered the truth about Olivia's situation. He vowed to help her, using his underworld connections to gather even more evidence against Marcus and Veronica. Another crucial ally was Amanda Chen, a brilliant attorney whom Olivia had helped early in her career. Amanda was more than willing to return the favor, working tirelessly behind the scenes to build a solid case against Marcus and lay the groundwork for Olivia's release. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Olivia continued her meticulous act. She participated in therapy sessions with feigned enthusiasm, spoke about accepting reality and overcoming her delusions. The doctors, impressed by her progress, began reducing her medication. Little did they know that every skipped pill, every moment of regained clarity, was a weapon Olivia was sharpening for her vengeance. At night, when the hospital was silent, she and Sarah met in dark corners, whispering plans and strategy. It was during one of these clandestine meetings that Olivia had an epiphany. She didn't just want to reclaim what was hers or see Marcus and Veronica behind bars. No, she wanted them to experience the hell she had lived. Through Sarah, she whispered, her eyes glinting with a mix of determination and something darker. When we get out of here, we're not just going to expose them. We're going to destroy them. We're going to make them wish they had never crossed my path. Sarah, seeing the intensity in Olivia's gaze, felt a chill run down her spine. She knew she was witnessing the birth of something powerful and potentially dangerous. But she also knew there was no turning back now. They were in This together for better or for worse spring arrived in New York, bringing with it not only the blooming of flowers in the city's parks, but also the blossoming of Aya's meticulous plan after months of careful preparation. The day of her reassessment hearing had finally come. Olivia, now a master of deception, walked into the hospital's conference room with a serene smile and clear eyes, the picture of restored sanity before a panel of psychiatrists. She spoke eloquently about her recovery journey, admitting with apparent sincerity that her accusations against Marcus had been the product of a temporary mental breakdown. She expressed remorse for having doubted her beloved husband and voiced her desire to reconcile and rebuild her life. The doctors, impressed by her lucidity and insight, exchanged approving glances. After a brief deliberation, they unanimously agreed to recommend her release. Olivia could barely contain her exhilaration as she signed the discharge papers, knowing that each signature brought her one step closer to her long-awaited revenge. As she stepped out of the hospital, Olivia was greeted by Amanda Chen, her attorney, who escorted her to a waiting car. As they drove through Manhattan's bustling streets, Olivia felt a dizzying mix of emotions: relief at her newfound freedom, anticipation for what was to come, and a cold fury pulsing through her veins. Amanda updated her on the developments of the past few months. Jack Donovan had gathered a mountain of incriminating evidence against Marcus and Veronica, including damning recordings falsified, financial records, and even emails detailing their plan to have Olivia committed. With this evidence in hand, they were ready to initiate a devastating legal case. But Olivia had other plans. "No," she said, her voice cold and unwavering. "The legal system is too generous to people like them. I want them to feel the same despair, the same helplessness that I did. I want them to lose everything, just like I did Amanda taken AB by Olivia's." Intensity tried to argue for a more conventional approach, but she quickly realized it was useless. The woman sitting beside her was no longer the kind-hearted philanthropist she had known years. AO in her place was a force of nature shaped by betrayal, hardened by abandonment. In the days that followed, Olivia threw herself into a frenzy of activity. Using the contacts and resources Sarah and Jack had gathered during her confinement, she began weaving an intricate web around Marcus and Veronica. First, she strategically leaked information to the press about Marcus's questionable practices as a plastic surgeon, including carefully documented cases of medical negligence. Within days, the professional reputation he had spent years building began to crumble. At the same time, Olivia used her connections in the financial world to quietly launch an investigation into Marcus's offshore transactions, alerting tax authorities to potential fraud. Meanwhile, she orchestrated a subtle yet relentless smear campaign against Veronica, exposing her past as a low-level con artist and hinting that she had been manipulating Marcus from the very beginning. With each passing day, the walls closed in tighter around the couple. They could feel the ground shaking. Epiphany came, a decision that would shock the world. Olivia announced that she would use her fortune and influence to reform the mental health system, with a particular focus on protecting patients from abuse and wrongful institutionalization. She established a fund to help victims of financial fraud and began working closely with lawmakers to close the loopholes that had allowed Marcus to have her committed against her will. In a gesture that surprised everyone, including herself, Olivia visited Marcus at the psychiatric hospital. She found him a shadow of the arrogant man she had once known, broken by the very system he had used against her. For a moment, the old rage threatened to resurface, but it was quickly replaced by something unexpected: pity. And to her own astonishment, forgiveness. "I forgive you, Marcus," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Not for your sake, but for mine. I've carried the hatred for too long." The words felt like they were draining a poison from her soul, a poison she hadn't even realized was still there. As she walked out of the institution, Olivia felt as if an immense weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She knew the road ahead would be long and difficult, regaining her humanity, rebuilding her soul. This would be a greater challenge than any revenge she had ever plotted, but for the first time in years, she felt a spark of genuine hope. As she walked through the streets of New York, the autumn sun casting long shadows, Olivia made a promise to herself. Her story would not end in revenge. It would end in redemption. The years that followed were a journey of transformation, not just for Olivia, but for everyone whose lives she had touched. The Mason Foundation for Mental Health Reform and Social Justice became a powerful force, driving significant changes in both the healthcare system and the legal field. Olivia poured all her energy, intelligence, and resources into the cause, determined to turn her traumatic experience into something positive for the world. A major Milestone came 3 years after her release when Olivia testified before Congress advocating for legislation that would become known as the Olivia Act. This law established strict safeguards against involuntary psychiatric commitments and medical abuse of power during her powerful test testimony. Olivia not only shared her own story but also shed light on hundreds of similar cases. Her foundation had uncovered and supported the impact was immediate and profound. The law passed with overwhelming bipartisan support as her public influence grew. Olivia continued her personal journey of healing and self-discovery therapy, meditation, and a close circle of true friends, including Sarah, who had become her closest confidant, helped her rebuild her identity and find a balance between justice and compassion. She learned to forgive not just Marcus and Veronica,